You're off. Okay. Sorry, I have to doing like 10 things at once here, trying to get things set up for today, but we should be good. Let's see. Um, cool. Yeah. All right. Well, welcome back. Uh, what? Just a couple quick announcements. Okay, actually, some really cool announcements. So, first announcement, not that cool, but it's Oh, actually, let me turn on my other second screen so I can have two screens at once. So a couple announcements. First off, this week is super busy for me. I'm doing Colorado Crush. Anybody? I don't know if anybody's in the neighborhood or over like in Rhino area. There's this thing called Colorado Crush, which is basically a mural festival, and they're just blowing up our whole neighborhood. It's been going on for about a decade now, and if you've been to Rhino, like River North, the neighborhood, you'll notice
What are
that
you
like
doing for that?
we're painting. We're painting our whole building.
Awesome.
So yeah. So I'm gonna be like if I'm not on with you guys, I'm painting. So we have 6 days to like finish this mural, and it's a burly one. It's pretty cool though. It's a turntable. So what we did, we borrowed Techniques 1200s from my buddies, and we did a photo shoot with it, and we're doing like that, and it says listen, and then we're gonna do a bunch of song lyrics around the side of the building. So it's interactive. If you want to come over, you can come over and write some lyrics on the building. Just anything that's meaningful. So that like, yeah. I mean, it's just gonna be neat. So anyway, that's my whole week is painting, 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 painting. Um, yeah. So but I'm gonna be outside and like we're and all day and all night painting. So if you want to come by, it's 29th and Walnut. That's my block. It's gonna be pretty sweet. So that's so I'm gonna be pretty much in and out of uh well, I'm going to be not very responsive right now, and I apologize. There's some people that have emailed me that I need to get back to. I've just been crazy busy over the weekend, so I need to get back to some people on emails, but I'm on it pretty soon here. The other one, another big announcement is, okay, I can't remember his name all of a sudden. Well, anyway, one of the instructors over in the DAC. If you're unfamiliar with DAC, it's one of the so College of Arts and Media is our college that we're in, and then inside of that we're MEIS, of course, and Music and Entertainment Industry Studies. But there's also film and television, and then there's also um, visual arts, and then there's this other weird one that's kind of over here. It's called the DAC, Digital Animation Center, and maybe you have some friends over there, maybe not, I don't know. But the DAC, what they do every year is they start their senior projects are creating um, animations shorts usually, and they win all these awards. Like they're like Pixar type shorts. They go and they make movies, and they're really really cool. But this year they're actually doing a lot of them are actually doing Unreal projects. So they need game audio. So it's actually be using they're using game audio engines. Some of it's going to be game stuff. Some of it's going to be just interactive media. But some of them can be cinematography. In fact, I'm on this like Facebook group called uh, I think it's I think it's Unreal for video production. What we're seeing, and I didn't even know about this whole world. People do all their staging, their camera shots, their camera moves, even focal pulls, and creating their shot list and everything using Unity and Unreal now. Actually, Unreal is a big one, and it saves them massive amounts of time in pre-production for video shoots and video for doing complex video shoots. They need to find out what gear they have, what kind of like moves they're going to be doing. So it's really interesting to see how Unreal is being used. But I know that I just was hit up yesterday by the DAC saying, "Hey, we have a bunch of Unreal projects going on for senior capstone projects. So if anybody wants to get involved with that, there's some real opportunity to do some kick-ass real projects coming down the pike with this stuff. So we're gonna get to Unreal later in the semester, but these projects won't be actually due. They're due at the end of the year. I mean, so but they're gonna they're starting on them now, doing pre-production, wireframing, that kind of stuff. So pretty exciting opportunity. This is a huge one. So I would recommend that you get involved with this sort of thing. So, but more details to come because I just got the email. It just came in, so I'll get more details as things come along. Okay, so let's get into what we're talking about today. So we're going to continue on our. So this is our going to continue on with our sound design stuff. I just looked. I noticed that my page didn't get posted from last week. The recording from last class, it didn't get something got goofed up on the upload to YouTube apparently. So that's getting re-uploaded. Well, I'll do it when I'm not on Zoom with you guys because it eats up all my bandwidth. So I'll get that re-uploaded here pretty soon, and I've got another video that's going up as well as this one. So that'll be going up soon. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna continue on talking about sound design. Oh, I guess the other announcement though is that yes, uh, due Wednesday night at midnight is the project where you're supposed to go through, redo all the sounds for the initial level for uh what is it, Cube. Um, Last week I kind of went over the whole like this idea of VPNing into the school and getting onto the sound effects library. But on retrospect, I mean, I do think it's important. Being able to VPN into school is a really good skill to have. But when I looked at the size of the volume of those sound effects libraries, I mean, it's like I don't know, I can't remember what it was. It was like I don't know, maybe it's probably 100 or a couple hundred gigs worth of data. So you could, if you VPN and you connect to the server, you can download sound effects a la carte one at a time as needed. But I think that's not necessarily the best way to work. Rather than trying to copy 200 gigs of data from the school servers, what I would do is just go to school. Like, get yourself an external hard drive and go in and sit in one of the studios and just do this for like 2 hours. It'll make your life so much easier if you just go in and do that. I actually went to campus yesterday for the first time since last March. Has anybody been on campus? Has anybody been on campus lately? I've been there for a while. Yeah. William, that's cool. So,
Yeah, I've been going.
yeah, for what for?
Mobile device ensemble.
Oh, nice. How are you guys doing that? Are you guys like spread all apart?
Uh, I mean, it's just usually the only one that goes in. So
Is everybody else remote in? Are you guys trying to figure out how to do remote sessions?
yeah, it works. There's kind of the
We've
option to
been
go
doing
in.
it. It's yeah, it's been going fine.
What are you using? Well, how do you connect?
We haven't yet. That's the thing.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. I'm curious if
So
you guys like how you play in sync online. I mean, people are trying to do it, but it's still a pretty new kind of tech. So it's being able to do super low latency audio over the web is tough.
we've been sharing audio with like audio. I think it's Audio Mover. I
Yeah.
think it's called right. And I mean like, that goes well for just like examples and stuff. But beyond that, it's just like it's kind of just like Lawrence Ableton course, but like different.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
I'm not complaining though.
No, that's cool. I mean, you got to roll with the punches. We're trying to make it work. It's like I was actually when I was on campus, I was like, I'm curious how they're doing things like sculpture and that kind of stuff. So that's crazy, like to figure all that stuff out. But what I would recommend though, like to follow up with that, what I would recommend is get yourself an external hard drive. Go just, like get a terabyte or so hard drive and go into like Studio F or any of the studios and just sit down and just pull all the entire, don't drag the entire library at once, drag each library, or don't drag the entire like sound effects thing all at once, drag individual libraries at a time because it just overwhelms the system. But it'll take a couple few hours to do that, and but it's worth it. Like then you have all those sound effects at your disposal on demand at home and ready to go. So it's because that's a big deal. Like I said, like you're gonna be going through and you won't be able to find the sound that you need. It's just the way it is. You're gonna look for some sound and it's not gonna exist. And that having a huge library is a good thing. So cool. So let's talk more. So what I wanted to do was go in and finish up this idea of let me share my screen here. Cool. Oh, this is the other thing I was just experimenting with. Um, Anybody use the Brave browser before? Pretty stinking awesome if you haven't. I won't say I'm a privacy nut, but I've read a few books on a few things that are like, uh, just like how, we all know when we're on Facebook or whatever, Twitter, Reddit, any of that stuff that there's no such thing as free on the internet, right? So we know that we're being tracked and our data is being sold, and that's just, I mean, that's how the internet, kind of the modern internet works right now. And so I've always tried to just steer clear, protect your privacy. I'm not going to go on this, there's a whole soapbox I can go on for hours on this stuff, but the idea is that protecting your privacy is really important, not because, and nobody cares about well, I'm not saying they don't care about you, but nobody cares at Amazon what you buy. They only care that they make money. And so all they're trying to do is suggest that you do, they use these suggestion engines to like encourage you to buy something. Like they found that whatever, somebody who buys five sets of white sheets also tends to like have this kind of dog food. Who cares? They don't care. There's no judging or anything like that. But what they do is they want to sell you more stuff. So if you happen to buy five sets of or four sets of these white sheets that this is the kind of dog food that you're gonna like, they're gonna recommend that. And so what it does is it limits your choices, and you don't even know it's happening most of the time. Well, none of us, even if you're aware of it, it's still happening. So anyway, there's this other browser. So most browsers track and sell your data and everything. Like, we all know this, but Brave, this browser right here, the Brave browser, it's completely it's not as secure. It's not as like private as say Tor, but it's really fast and completely anonymous. It blocks everything, so you get to stay you. So that's the bonus of it. Anyway, I was just experimenting with it yesterday. It's called Brave. If you've not played with it before, it's pretty cool. And then I'm also switching over my search engine to Quant. If you've not used Quant before, it's like Google, but it doesn't track your data. So anyway, I'm working on trying to mix this up. So I'm experimenting with this Brave browser right here, but it's pretty cool. Oh, and also just happened to be, has anybody seen The Social Dilemma on, I think it's Netflix? If you haven't, it's pretty cool. It's a really high production. Some of it's corny, but basically it's a wake up call about how evil these companies are about selling your data and everything. So anyway, that's just a little recommendation. Okay, so back to the picture here. So I've got come back to that one later. I just realized right before class started, like literally a minute before class started, that I'm working on my Windows machine right now, and the session that we were working on last week is on my Mac machine on this computer. Or well, they're two different computers. They're on the same monitor here, but um, I don't have my old. I can't get to my other session because it's on my other computer. So I need to create a new session and go over this. So what I want to do is basically what we're going to talk about today is I want to wrap up this notion of doing sound effects design and session layout, because I want to focus a little bit on session layout and how you do this sort of thing, what a session should look like for sound effects and sound design. And then I want to look at recording your own sound effects, and then we're going to look at using Reaper as a platform. So I'm using Nuendo right now, but I'm going to switch over to Reaper, and then I'm going to talk about testing it with Cube and talk a little bit more about the project that we have coming up. So I'm going to create. I have to do this. It sucks, but I have to create a new project just because. Let's do this. I'm just going to do it on the desktop because my other one's on the desktop, and I don't want to cancel out everything. Let's do new folder. Let's do Cube SFX session. All right, so what I'm going to do with this, I'm just going to show you kind of how a general session layout would look like for say a game audio session, for a sound design session. This could also be for post production, but this is a sound design. It's not a mix post mixing session where you have everything in the linear format. What we're doing is we're creating sound effects. So what we want to do is I'm going to create just something like three audio tracks. The configuration. Let's do those as monos. Sorry, out. Cool. So if we're doing weapon sound, and if this is a weapons project, so if I'm basically, I would create a different session for like maybe make a weapons session. I would do like an automotive section if you're doing like cars and vehicle, or like maybe a vehicle session. Then I'll do a Foley session. I'll do a dialogue session. So a dialogue is going to be, so each one of these is going to have a different you're not going to have one gigantic session where you do everything in it. It's a lot easier to do some sort of smaller sub sessions in there. So on this one, we're going to do something like this. It's called Mech. And, oh God. Body. Sorry, I gotta look at my notes. Forgot what I wanted to look at here. Yeah. There it is, body punch mix. Okay. One. So when we think about sound effects and sound design, almost never are you going to be able to go to a library and get the sound you want. Sound effects, like it's usually considered pretty uncool to use a library sound just as it is. Those sounds are very plain, and it doesn't usually have the sound the quality of sound that you want. So usually you're gonna have to create these things. So and what I'm saying is this what you break it down to what we call procedural sound. So what we do is we take the sound, we think about a gunshot, for instance, and a gunshot consists of a few different things. So we have the 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 gas expansion inside the barrel when the well, depending if we're talking about sci-fi guns or if we're talking about like laser guns, this is a little bit different. But for like the traditional kind of gun sound that we're thinking of, like a machine gun, a shotgun, or something like that, basically has to do with like the barrel size, the barrel length, the kind of projectile being used. They're all going to have a different quality of sound to them. So when it expands in the gas, it creates a sonic boom, and also this expansion of gas, it creates like an impulse. So what we want to do is we want to break it down into these kind of components, and we can build each of these components into our sound. And then we also have the mech. So the mech is the mechanics of the gun, the metal moving parts, or the the slides and all that kind of stuff that actually like move as the gun fires and either reloads or um, makes the sounds like handling noises. And then, I mean, if you watch any cop show or anything, and when they have the handling noises of the weapons, it's like ridiculous how much sound guns make on TV. Because in real life, if you like, most weapons don't make any noise when you handle them. They just don't have any. They're quiet. But when we do sound effects, we want things to be a little bit hyper real. So we actually exaggerate things a lot of times. Um, Sorry, I need to get my chat back. Cool. And then we're gonna have punch one and punch two. So what I'm gonna do is the mech is gonna be like the clinking sounds, like you just find some metal handling sounds, and you can use a lot of different things. You're not gonna actually use the sound of of like a gun handling noise. What it can be is like a part of the cocking sound, or something that gives it a quality of like some clicking sound, or some sort of like mechanical sounds. So it could be anything. Stuff, if you want to actually record this, things like staplers, or like tools, like home tools that you would use, they tend to have like loose parts in them, and they'll have some pretty good handling noises. Or some kitchen appliances actually have some pretty good, like toasters and stuff like that, can actually make pretty good mechanical sounds as well. And usually it's almost never you're going to just use the sound as it comes out. You're going to have to pitch it up or pitch it down, and you can do that also in Wise, but you can also do it upstream here in your sound design. So the body body is going to be like the thump of it. It's going to be, well, I guess we can do punch one and body two. Punch one and punch two, those are going to be our explosions. They're going to be the high impact, the higher frequency like crack of the gun. So, and you can use two different kinds of ones. So you're usually going to blend two different ones. I wouldn't say usually, but sometimes in this case, I'm going to say I'm going to blend punch one, punch two. So I'm going to throw sounds in here. Let's do, I just need gun sounds. I think you're probably not able to hear all those. Oh, this is still scanning all my sound effects libraries. I didn't have this hard drive plugged in. So you can see what it's doing right here is the red means it's scanning that and adding it to the database. So it's only gotten through these first 6 sound effects. I forgot to do this earlier. Like usually I would have done this before, but I forgot to do this. So let's just find some sound effects here. Rifle. Let's just do gun. Ooh, that's good. Let's go at our origin channels. Okay. I'm just grabbing some random, not random, but close enough ones. And Ooh, that's a good one. Whatever. Good enough. Okay. Playing in the background. All right. So let me show you what I just picked out because you probably couldn't hear those. Can you hear that? Nope. Why can you not hear this? Sorry, I got to think about this for a second. I wonder if I have to. So the audio in this thing is the routing is weird. I don't understand how to route it to. Let me try this. Go to output.
What's your default audio output on the Windows machine like itself?
Motu. So it's
Strange.
yeah. So it's I've got. I mean, I could try my Motu Pro audio. So it's just they've got this new Zoom audio routing thing, and it's kind of funky. But I should you like if I'm on Mac, I can choose Zoom as my output driver, and I can still hear it. But on Windows, it's a little bit weird. I don't know why that would be. I think because it should. Think about this for a second. I mean, if we have to work deaf, we can do it. It just I'll have to. This is something I need to figure out because. How about this? Let me try turning off original sound. Let me try this for a second. It's not going to sound as good, but hopefully you'll be able to just hear it. Nothing? Okay. Well, we're just gonna have to work a little bit deaf for right now, just because I don't like it's not the most important part right now. What I want to work on in a session layout. So when I brought these in, it separated those out. There was also stereo audio files, so I broke those down um, into mono audio files. So I'm going to take this. So I've got like these impact sounds. I'm going to cut these up. Let's just do 4 or 3 sounds for now. Cool. All right. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to break these up into 3 different versions of it. I don't have time to search for it. You can't hear anyway, but what I would do is a mechanical sound up above. And oh, that one's what I'm going to use. What I would do is that this is the body. This is like the low frequency thump of the thing. And these are the punches right here. So what I would do here is I'm going to add like an EQ. Turn that down. Let's bring this up. And so I would, with this EQ, let's do, I want this one to just be this to be the low frequency stuff. These ones I'm going to high pass because I want those to be just let's do high or low cut. Let's turn that on. Bring that up here. Why is that red? It didn't used to be red. Do the same thing on this one. Low cut, bring it up. So what we're going to do here is and then I can also time compress and stretch this thing. So these are going to be the crack of the gun, so to speak. And using the different, I should bring it over here. I'm going to adjust the mechanical and work on the mix to get them to sound exactly the way I like them. This one is going to be this is the low frequency thump. This is the punch, and this is the punch. And then they're also going to have some handling noises, like a trigger pull, that sort of thing, that sort of sound in there. And let's do it quick. Make sure these on zero crossing. And you're going to go through until you get it to sound the way you like it to. You can't hear it right now, but those are way out of sync. So that's way too long of a tail on that thing. You can't hear it. It sounds like you're in a canyon. So we need to bring these down a little bit. Shorten the time. Ooh, sorry you can't hear it because that actually sounds pretty badass. It goes boom. It sounds like this pretty huge awesomeness. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to throw these into a folder. Let's create a folder track. And depending on which DAW you're working on, you don't really need to do it for this one, but we'll just call this one guns. Let's throw these into that folder. Let's change the color of these. It's better make them orange. And then that way I can fold these up, and if I want to start creating more, so this would be like the guns right here, and then I'd have like lasers and rocket launchers, and I'd have all your different kinds of, let's edit this one down a little bit. Let's just pretend that I got these pretty much where they need to be. They obviously need a lot more work than what I'm giving them right now, but you'd spend, a couple days doing this. If you want to get the sound just right. Yeah, whatever. I'm not gonna worry about that right now. Cool. And so you can fold that up. Not every DAW has folders, but most of them have the means to do something like that. And then what I'm gonna do next is, mech should go in there as well. So I don't have mech actually done right now. Come on. But you would have handling noises here. Cool. Next up, then what I want to do is I want to create a marker track. This is just how a Nuendo thing. Other things, if you're like in Pro Tools, they already have you can just use the markers built on the timeline. But here you actually can make marker tracks. We'll call this guns. Put that right there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create in and out points. So I'm going to select this one right here, P. Oops, P. So I'll call this gunshot rifle 1. And I realize that you likely don't use Nuendo. And the reason, well, not the reason I like Nuendo. I've used Nuendo for a long time, but this one, I'm not going to really demonstrate it right now, but it has the ability to connect directly to Wwise. So if I change something in my session here in Wwise, it'll change it in Wwise. So it's pretty sweet because once you're building your session, you're like, oh, I need to change out this sound. It's a lot easier to do it this way than it is with some of the other DAWs. So, okay. So at this point, basically I have mech, punch 1, punch 2, body, and they're all ready to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to export these audio files. And this is one of this reason right here is why you have Nuendo or Reaper are the bomb for doing this. So I'm going to do an export. And here's one of the baddest ass things ever is that instead of doing, I can just do my stereo output mix. This is like, it's like kind of like doing stems in Ableton, but I want to export just the mech, the body, the punch 1, and punch 2, and I'm gonna do rifle 1, rifle 2, rifle 3. So with one single mix down thing, it's gonna create 12, or actually 1, 2, 3. There's actually nothing in there, but it's going to do 1, 2, 3, 4 times 3. It's going to do 12 audio file mixed down with the appropriate name. So I want these to be 48. I'll do these as 16-bit, and I'm going to send these out. And so this is what's so badass. You can do the naming scheme. This is far better than any other DAW I've ever seen able to do this sort of thing. So what I want to do is it's going to export the cycle marker name, which is rifle 1, rifle 2, rifle 3. The second one is going to be the channel type, which, yeah, the channel, not channel type, but it should be channel name. Somebody get rid of that. Channel name. So right now, so you can add all these things like the name, the counter, channel number. Yeah, actually I should throw a counter in there. Oh, right there. And let's do just 1 digit. So it'll do rifle mech 1, rifle mech 2, rifle mech 3. Actually, I want to do the channel name. Mech. Nope, I want it the other way. That one. So let's do rifle mech 01. So let me just, that's awesome. I like the way that works. You can set this up exactly how you want to, and it can do really cool stuff. I'm gonna send this to the, let's just do it to a new folder. Let's do this one called Cube. Actually, let's create a new folder. All right, so I'll hit export audio. And what it did is it created a folder here called Cube Guns, and it created rifle 1, body 1, rifle 1, mech 1. So these are the rifle 1, mech body punch, mech body 2, mech body punch, mech body punch. And so now, oh, whoops, it did a counter. I don't like the way it did it. I thought it was going to go 1, 1, 2, 3. I don't, that was the wrong way to do that. So I screwed that one up. But the cool thing is, when you're working in this game audio stuff, unlike say music, it's so important. Your naming conventions are so critical, right? Because if the way I name it my DAW and export from my DAW, it loads it into Wwise, and the way that Wwise understands it, it has to match up, not necessarily with the actual game, because the event names are what connect the game to Wwise, but you have to like be very careful with your naming convention, because as you're going through and you create all these sound effects and then you go back and you're like, I need to go change the way this thing sounds, that you have to name it exactly the same way. Because if you want to overwrite it, it has to be named exactly the same way it was prior to that. And so that everything stays in sync. Because what you don't want to do is go delete everything and then export it again. But you're like, oh, I decided I want to add a leading 0 instead of this. So it's 01 and 02, 03, that all of a sudden Wwise isn't going to be able to understand because it doesn't reference those audio files because they're not the right name anymore. So it can cause some real problems. So naming conventions is crazy complicated and hard, especially when you're dealing with something like 12 sounds, not a big deal. But when you're dealing with thousands of sounds, it's critical that everything is named exactly the right way every single time. So this exporting function is amazing. I use it a lot for other purposes as well, for post and for music, but you can do some really cool stuff. And that's, I don't know why most other DAWs don't have this capability, but it's just something that Nuendo can do that others cannot. But that's essentially how you're going to set your sessions up with these. You're going to have a bunch of different sounds in here. And then what that's going to allow me to do now is inside of Wwise, I can pull from rifle, well, the naming convention might be a little wrong here, but basically I would say, rifle 1, rifle 2, rifle 3 in Wwise, so that I can randomize the different I can randomize punches with different mechs with different bodies, and it's going to give me wildly different sounds. Well, they're all going to sound close to each other, but I can get really rich. I can get, tens of thousands of different combinations of these inside of Wwise by using the random container and combining those together, so that you get really complex sounds with a small sound. Like literally with this one, I could get, well, what is this, 12 to the probably 4th number of combinations. Maybe it's 4 to the 12th. I can't remember. Combinations of sounds here. Maybe that's a little overkill for a single gunshot sound, but if it's a key component to your game where it's a really important sound for how the game functions, this may be worthwhile. But through doing things like footsteps and yeah, mostly like rifle sounds. Well, not rifle sounds, but like sound effects. You can get really rich content through a small set of sounds by doing this, but also just optimizes your workflow there. So that's basically how I wanted to look at just for a minute on session setup. So I use folders a lot. So basically, I would do like, well, I'll call this one rifles, and then I would set up another session, like another one down here, and call it a different name. And you know, do rifles, rocket launchers, grenades, pistols, lasers. You know, create a different one for each one of these, and I'd have different export functions for each one of these. And so it's tedious for sure, and but it works really really well for that sort of thing. Cool. Okay. What I want to look at now is talking about. So that's if you're working with sound effects and you've got libraries at your disposal. And so for things like weapon sounds, I can go through to my house and I can go get some, like like the mechanical stuff, I can record that myself. But obviously I'm not going to, well, I've gone out and I've done recording sessions for guns. My brother's in-law, he's an ex-SWAT guy up in Fort Collins, and he has like an arsenal of big guns. So we went out to Eastern Colorado one day, and because I wanted to practice, I wanted to set up a field recording session. So I'd never done recording guns before. So I went out and set up out like in the plains out in Colorado, because we wanted to get far away from any traffic or any other kind of sounds. So went out to these fields. But the problem is, if you've been to Eastern Colorado and any of the plains, there is wind, a lot of wind, because you're out in these fields and there's just no protection. So that was a real problem. And so you have to get really expensive windscreens and stuff. So it was kind of a bust. Lesson learned. Recording weapons is way harder than it sounds, because they're so transient. It usually doesn't sound like. I wish I could do some demonstrations here, but it usually doesn't sound like you think it would. So you have to synthesize these things. But for the most part, we're not going to have the opportunity to go. I can't create a helicopter sound, so I'm going to have to use a library. So we lean on libraries a lot. But like I said, it's really important that you don't just drop a library sound in. You have to modify it, tweak it, and get it to sound the way you like it to. Just like you would in a music production where you want it to mix and blend and actually sound like they belong together. That's the real challenge with this, because if you just throw any old random footsteps in there, it's going to sound weird. So fortunately for footsteps, that's something we can record ourselves fairly easy. So what I did is I went into the core yesterday and I did a Foley recording session. So let's take a look at video. Let's watch this little video that I did yesterday.
Hey, Merkel.
What's up?
To avoid like lower resolution when you're pitching stuff down, you imported a higher sample rate, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, good point. And I should have mentioned that.
Does the bit depth matter on that too?
Bit depth does not matter. Sample rate does, though. So when you're doing your sound effects recording and when you're looking for sound effects, always look for the highest sample rate possible, because you can if you have like 96K and better, like, so if you're out there in the field and you're recording, always record at 96 kilohertz. And I don't usually use high sample rates for most my music stuff, because I don't think it's really all that important for that application. But for sound design and for post, it's crazy important that you record at super high sample rates, because if I want to pitch something down an octave, like slow, or like you're saying, slow it down, I can either time stretch it or I can pitch it down to half the speed and it'll still have full quality like frequency resolution. Whereas if I take something that's recorded at 44.1 and I slow it down to double the speed, it's going to have effective sample rate of 22 kilohertz, which means that the highest frequency it's going to have is 11 kilohertz in the recording. So you're going to lose a lot of the high end as soon as you start stretching out those files. Compressing them is not a problem. It's only when you start stretching and you pitch stuff down that you want to do that. And also when you're, the other thing I guess I could say in here. So if for instance, I want to pitch something down here. So if I like these ones down here, if I want to pitch that down, there's a couple different ways you can do it. So, I mean, in here with this one, I have like time stretching right here. So if I'm working in a film and I need to change something, like the timing of something, this one right here, what it's going to do is if I grab this thing right here and I stretch it out, that's going to apply a time stretch in the same way that it's like warping in Ableton or Elastic Audio in Pro Tools. That one, what that did is it stretched it, but it didn't pitch it. So this one, when I time stretch it, it's by not using that tool. So for me to do it with Nuendo at least, I'm going to do audio processes. I want to do like a pitch shift right here. I'll create a new version of this thing, and I can pitch shift, but I can say don't do the time correction. So if this one right here is going to it's going to do the time correction here. If I do not do this, come on. So if I go down an octave right here, what it did is it just pitched it. It doubled the length of this thing. It pitched it down, and it stretched it out. But remember, yeah, if the original sample rate on this one right here, it shows me what the original sample rate was. So these are all 48K. I think it might have converted them, but these are all 48K. I think it converted them to 48K when it imported them. I should have been watching, but if it was 96K, I would have not done that because that way I could stretch this thing out and it'll sound great.
So does that mean Wise pitch shifts before optimization?
So what I would do is, like if in regards to how, because we know that we can add variation and pitch shifting inside of Wise, but my goal is to get it pretty close in my DAW, because I think I have more control over it in my DAW to get it the sound that I want, knowing that I may do some plus or minus stuff over in Wise, and maybe once I get into Wise, I'm like, ooh, I do need to change that. But I would say, like, if you have to pitch shift this thing like crazy, it's probably, something wrong with your sound. You should probably do it in your DAW. That said, though, what you can do is, like, I may want to use like the impact sound, like the body. I could use the same body for multiple different kind of guns. So I could use it for a pistol as well as for a shotgun, as well as for a rocket launcher. So knowing that I could use that same body for a lot of different ones, I may just bring it in kind of as is, and I pitch shift it in Wise because I'm going to be reusing that for a bunch of different weapon sounds. Or maybe even I could use this for explosions or for a door shutting or something. I could reuse this sound for a lot of different things. So maybe it's just a thump, right? And so I create a thump sound and I use that for a lot of different things. So in that case, I would maybe, well, I don't know.
That's basically easier
yeah.
just to do minor pitch variations and randomization in Wise, but your big pitch shifts in the DAW.
Correct. Because when I'm designing my sound, I want to hear it when I'm designing it here, so I can hear all three of them at the same time. So I'm like, okay, I know that's what that's going to sound like, and I think that's going to work. So yeah. So that's essentially how I would do most of my sound design in here, but then with some minor variations over in Wise. I mean, the cool thing is now knowing what you know with Wise, you know what you're capable of there. But I wouldn't rely on it because, I mean, I wouldn't sit here and go, okay, well, I know that this is going to have to pitch shift up just because I know I can do that in Wise. But I'm like, I want to hear what it's actually going to sound. So when I'm designing, they're all out of sync with each other. I mean, you can't hear that one. That sounded like fireworks on that one, but on this one, let's go P1. I wish you could hear that. That sounds tough. I like that one. It needs some handling noise, but it sounds pretty badass. It's like boom. Hyper real sounding right there. I think that's pretty neat. Okay. So let's watch this. So
Thank you.
Sure thing. Yes, please. And that was a great point. I totally forgot to talk about sample rate, but sample rate's crazy important. And if you recall, like, it will do, you can downsample and you can change stuff in Wise during your optimization if you need to. But one thing though, I will say though, it doesn't seem to, what I don't think Wise does is it doesn't do, well, it does do sample rate dropping, or sorry, bit depth dropping. So you can go from 24 to 16. And when they're talking about it in the thing, they're saying you should always import your sound effects at the highest resolution into Wise and let Wise do the optimization. But the problem is I don't trust its dithering algorithms and stuff. So I would say for the most part, I would do everything in 16-bit to export. So I'm a big fan of working at 24-bit for everything, but for file sizes, I think working at 16-bit. So I don't know if you caught that when I was in here. I exported at 16-bit right here. So I'm always going to, and I can add dithering and do if I want to add dithering and noise shaping and that kind of stuff in there, I can. But where's my dither stuff? Oh, it doesn't have dithering in here, but I can add dithering in my master mix here if I want to add some dithering in there. I don't really think you need dithering for game audio, but I think that's not necessarily all that important. But I do think that you should only use 16-bit sounds inside of Wise.
And
But
should
there
they
are
be
some
mono?
they should,
Every
well, it
sound mono?
depends. It depends on what you're doing. But yes, I think like if for these kind of sounds, unless they need to be in the stereo field, because most of your panning is going to be done inside of Wise, right? So like if I want the gun, like we were talking, like in lesson 4, if I want the shotgun to sound shotgun to sound like it's coming from over here a little bit, I wouldn't create a pan of a stereo left and right for the gunshot here and like the quieter in my left ear than my right ear. I'm just going to move that pan inside of the 3D spatialized panner inside of Wise. And so I want to use mono files because they're half the size, the file size. So using mono is really important, but obviously things for things like music and for ambience, like if you're outside and you have, well, if it's a baked like sound bed with birds and crickets and that sort of stuff, unless you have the birds and crickets and water and air and grass all separate elements that you want to synthesize the soundscape for the background and you want to pan those around, you can do that, which is actually pretty cool. It's very difficult to do in Wise, but you can do it. Rather than if I just found a field, like a sound effects of a field or like something like that, where it's already in stereo, you're just going to import the stereo file and do something like that. And the cool thing with the, like, if you're doing like say long sounding background noises, you can just do those you can stream those from disk. So they don't actually load into RAM. So you don't have to worry about so much about those sound effects eating up RAM. So it's all a little bit of like cat and mouse game with your fidelity and data size and that sort of stuff. Okay. Yeah, I gotta play this video because we only have a couple minutes here. So the other thing is, if we want to go through and where's my folder? There it is. Record some stuff.
Hey friends, all right.
Can you hear that?
So
Can you hear me
we're
talking
gonna
on
do
that
a
one?
little bit of a Foley recording session.
Okay, yay! We can hear that one. So I went into. Let's watch this one. Let's watch this video. Actually, I'm gonna stop the share. I'm gonna get better quality sound on this one. See if this works. Can you hear that? I've not watched this myself yet, so
We can't see the video.
We
Oh.
can't see or hear it.
you can't. You wait. You can or cannot?
No, we
cannot
can hear you.
We cannot hear.
Oh, did I not do screen share? I'm sorry. That's funny. My bad. I'm just watching myself here. Can you see me now? You're watching my screen, right? Okay.
In post, you're actually going to watch a monitor, and you actually oftentimes will go along with the video themselves. And it can be everything from like jackets moving to footsteps to breathing and little tiny like setting glasses down, like just general human motion noises. We're not going to go that far with that. We're just going to look at how to do footsteps today. So what I'm going to go. Let's take a look at the gear that we need first. So for doing this, I mean, any kind of microphone will actually work in any kind of for this situation. But the ideal one is going to be a shotgun mic, and because the idea with this is you're going to be working with fairly high gain, which means that you have the volume cranked on the mic, and you don't want to get any external sounds because, especially when you're doing very very minor sounds like motion, like fabric motion, that sort of stuff, you need to have it very very you have getting cranked on the thing, and so therefore you're going to want to get rid of all the extra sounds. So anything like planes going overhead or cars driving by or people in another hallway, or just you'd be surprised, how much sound bleeds into your system. And so we're working to really isolate as much of that as possible. So to do that, the best mic for the job is going to be shotgun. So I grabbed this is the Rode NTG from the Core. This thing kicks ass. I think it's like $500-$600 or something like that. Rode is making some. I mean, the Sennheiser MKH is great, but this for the money is a kick-ass microphone. So we're going to use that one in the Core today. So we've got our microphone. And of course, we need a recorder. I'm using right now. I'm using my own. You can set this up and record straight to a DAW, but I'm not going to because I find that a DAW is cool, but there's so much computers and stuff, and especially when you have to have computers on where you can actually hear them. That's going to be a real problem. So I use my field recorder. Plus the mic pre's on this field recorder are just insanely good. So this is the Sound Devices Mix Pre 6. So you can see me actually recording my voice on this, so that we can actually sync this up later. So. But yeah, so this is the Mix Pre 6. I think this was like $800 or $900. I love this thing. This is the Mark 1. They've since come out with a Mark 2. Not really that much has changed on it. So it's effectively a 4-channel mic. It's got four inputs on it, but you can also record on channels 5 and 6, which are like, computer recording, and it can act as an audio interface. And I don't know. I just think this thing is a kick-ass little unit. So I'm just going to use this. Hopefully the batteries don't die out on me here. So. Yeah, cool. Yeah. So up next. So then basically, so let's get this mic hooked up here, and we'll talk a little about mic positioning here. So that will be on line 1. And I'll talk a little bit more about like the clothing that I'm wearing and why in just a second, because I look a little funny, dressed a little funny for today. So what we want to do is, for Foley sessions, we want to get this really close to our source. So we're going to extend this way down and out. There we go. And we want to get that. Let me see. Can you see that? Cool. So we want to get this nice and close to our source, our sound source. Again, because we want to get rid of any other extraneous sounds. So when you're doing a Foley session, everything becomes like bionic hearing. It's crazy. So like it's ridiculous how like everything makes noise. So things like get all your keys and everything out of your pockets is really important. Like nothing. And so I messed up today. I was wearing shorts. I actually brought jeans, but it's hot today. So I would not. These are nylon shorts, and they've got a bit of a sound, like some sound to them. So that's usually bad. What I think works the best are like gym shorts that have like, or even like you'll see if you watch Foley people, like tights work really well, because you don't want anything that actually moves that can create fabric sound. But we'll make it work for today. But if you're wearing something like jeans, or like if I'm on campus here wearing jeans, I actually will take like gaff tape and tape my ankles, because you don't want to hear the fabric of the movement there. You just want to hear just the footsteps. And you have to wear different footwear for different kinds of situations. So I'm wearing my Doc Martens right now because I think Oxfords give I like the semi-hard soles of the Docs. They give a real good quality sound for shoes. You can use sneakers, and actually you want to do a whole array of this. So I'm just showing you one footstep sound. I'll run through all different sounds here, and then what you should do is probably do it with every single individual shoe. So it would be good to do it with, like, I'm wearing like Oxfords, wearing some like boots, like either hiking boots or combat boots or something like that. Sneakers would be a great one. High heels would be a great one. I mean, obviously not for the cube game, but having those footsteps available to you is great. And so the nice thing about this is that what we're doing is we're doing this all in one session. So it's going to have same quality, same timbre, same quality of sound. I'm not going to do water today because that's a real pain in the butt here, but the water is going to be the one that would be a little bit different. But the nice thing is all these footsteps sounds will match up, so that if we run from dirt to gravel to grass, it'll all have that same quality of sound to them. And that's really important to give the game or whatever you're working on a sense of unity, so that all the quality of sounds actually have the same sound to them. So yeah, so that's basically, so like, yeah, shorts are a good idea, but just not these ones right here that I'm wearing right now. But either some actually tight-fitting clothes that works really well, because you don't want anything that flops around a bunch. And then next up, we want to talk about our Foley boxes over here. So here we have some, these are like Foley pits, like you call them a Foley pit, or like these are like not built into the ground. They're mobile Foley pits, so they're just 2x4s with handles made on the side of them with some plywood on the bottom. They're lined with carpet underlayment to give it so that basically, because what you want to hear is you want to hear the foot and the gravel, not any of the external sources. So we're trying to create a bit of isolation from the outside room. You can also, sometimes you'll see that people will put padding underneath them. So we have some moving blankets. I'm not going to go that far today, but you can put moving blankets down, because, well, and this is nice. This floor is really nice and dead, but sometimes you'll get rooms that that has the room actually thumps like so and that's a bit of a problem. So these will work really well for our situation today that we're going to be working on. So so we have a bunch of different. So we have the Foley pits right there, and then we also have some like some hard surfaces here. So we have this is like linoleum, and then we have some tile and some metal under there. And you can use these for more than just footsteps. You can use them for like if you need to put materials on them. So we have over here on the rack over here, we have a bunch of like just random materials. So if even stuff like here's some sticks and gravel. So if you want to give it the sound of rustling, so you can put the rustling sound onto one of these surfaces if for whatever reason you need to make it sound like it's on a surface. So, but there's all sorts of just weird little clinky, metally plates, that kind of sound that you can use. So let's do this. Let's start off, and one of my favorites here is this is cool. This is just tape, like analog tape, or it could be digital tape, and it's used a lot for things like well, it sounds like leaves, and it sounds like outdoor sounds, and it's very consistent and works very well. So let's start off with that one. So we're gonna set this down here, and let's go. I'm gonna pull this over so I can work on it and get my gain set on this thing, and I'm gonna hook up my headphones so I can actually hear. Oop, got my mic stuck, and so I can monitor with this. So cable management's pretty important because you don't want to have a lot of, you don't want anything banging on anything. So that's one of the challenges. So, gaff tape, routing it through different areas so things aren't gonna bang is pretty useful. All right, hello, cool. So let's go to here. Let's get my gain set up on here. So okay, that sounds pretty good. All right.
Just a quick side note. So what we're hearing right now is we're hearing both my lav mic and the floor mic. So you're gonna hear me breathing the whole time. It's kind of sucky. Like I didn't have time to edit and duck all. So what I should do in post is duck every time I'm doing the footsteps, duck my dialogue mic. But I didn't have time to do that because that takes a long time. So I just let this thing run raw.
That sounds pretty good. So what we're gonna do now is make sure nothing's hitting. Let's turn my headphones on. My headphones
Thanks. I didn't know I didn't have to wear a mask in there.
Okay, cool. So I'm about 50 dB gain right now, so that's quite a bit. So we got the microphone, so you imagine it's just gonna pick up just this region area right here. So I'll hold this tight so I don't hear any of that. And I mean, when you're doing this in real life, you actually sometimes have to hold your breath because you can hear your breath through.
I didn't hold my breath during this,
But
and it
this
sucks.
works pretty well.
My
So
breathing
I'm gonna
bleeds through the whole thing.
try and pull up some of these cables so they're not banging around. Okay, so when you do footsteps, as far as techniques, so the footstep is actually two different steps, and so it can be it's a heel toe thing. So what we want to do is you want to really kind of exaggerate the heel toe thing, and because you can always stitch it closer together in editing if you want to get it closer together, but well, we'll go through a few different ranges, and also things like running. So running is going to have a different quality of like heel toe than say walking. So let's start with this one right here, and you always want to slate what you're doing. And normally I would, I'm doing one continuous take on the recorder here right now because I'm going to be syncing it.
What's slate? What's slating? Nah, you're right, Sean, but not when so we call it slating when you basically you say what it is. So when you're doing field recording, it's really important. And also, I didn't mention it in here. We have kick-ass field recorders in the Core too.
The video, but if I were doing this on my own, like if I were just doing a session and I wasn't doing it with video, what I would do is I would stop it and re-record, and I would record it with each individual take and slate, saying this is take whatever, and explain what it is, because it's a lot. It's pretty hard to hear sometimes. So like basically, I'll just explain what I'm doing. So this is going to be rustling, like walking on leaves, or like let's do this. And you could also keep piece of paper if you need to write some stuff down, like what if it's a good one or a bad one. But okay, so let's do this. Okay, so walking leaves. Running leaves. I'm hearing something rub. Oh, it's that. Okay. That sucks. I'll try and write this higher up. Okay, here we go. Walking leaves, take 2.
So you're of course hearing my breathing this whole time, which is annoying.
Running leaves, take 2. Shuffle leaves. So that last bit was just to get some like motion noises. Not really good necessarily for a video game per se, but maybe you have a character that's standing around, or when they come to a stop and they want to do some motion. So there's a lot of like foot shuffle noises that you'll do sometimes. Cool. All right. So that's leaves. Let's go do another one. That one's heavy. All right. Yeah, that sounds good. All right. Gravel, take 1. Or walking gravel, take 1. Running gravel, take 1. Shuffle gravel, take 1. Cool. And normally I would stop it, like I said, between takes and do a different file for that. But since we're just trucking along here, should not pull anything over. So we have sand next. All right. Sand walking, take 1. Running sand, take 1. Shuffle sand, take 1. So you use those sounds for like when a player runs and comes to a stop kind of sound. So where it's like not them actually taking a footstep. I just spilled a little bit. Whoops. All right. Foley is messy, messy work. All right. Cool. All right. Wood, walking, take 1. Running, wood, take 1. Shuffling wood, take 1.
All right. But there's a few more minutes of me going through and doing different other surfaces. I think you get the idea. You can watch me go do like the metal. Like the metal one's actually. Let's look at this metal one. So this is kind of interesting.
Tile, shuffling, take 1. All right.
Cool.
Metal, walking, take 1.
Cool. You kind of get the idea there. So what I've done is I've made these files. So I basically went in and let's see, where's that? Let's close out this session real quick, and we got to get out of here. Save it. It's fine. File, open recent project. So what I did here is this is the actual file. So I isolated the file from that track, and these are all the audio files. So I've actually made them available to you. So right now they are, well, I'm going to upload those up, and they'll be on Canvas here in a few minutes. So you have available to you all those footsteps. But it's crazy when I'm listening to them, you can actually hear you can actually hear the audio of my breathing. I was doing a bad job with the mask. And Ketchum, thanks for pointing that out. I didn't know you didn't have to wear your mask in the core. So nobody was like, when I was working by myself, I was like, well, I'm just going to be safe about it. But yeah, I guess if you're by yourself, you don't need to have that. But so that's all done in Studio F. There's all those Foley pits, but I've given you, I'll let you use mine. And so if you want to use them, you can use any footsteps you want for any of the other, well, obviously I guess I only have, so what I did, gravel, sand, wood, tile, metal, and there's a couple of other ones in there, but we're missing things like water. And so you can also combine stuff to give a combination of stuff to give it the sound that you need. But the one, I didn't do water though. So the one you can either have to record your own, or you're gonna have to go find library ones for water. You can use any sounds you want. You don't have to use my sounds at all by any means. And when you listening to it, you'll hear like this is what it looks like the whole session. So it includes all of my inner dialogue too. So what you'd want to do is go through and cut this thing up and chop it up into sections like wood, all these different kind of sound sections, and then cut up the sounds in there. And so if we just zoom in on what they actually look like, let me see. Oh, that's everything. So you have to go through and find all the sounds that you need. I know you can't hear that. There we go. There's some sounds right there. So you're going to cut these out right here. So I would go through and just start cutting sounds up and finding good footsteps, and then use those and import those into your random containers. So I have this one exported already. I don't know if I haven't uploaded it yet. I don't know where I put that right now, but I will make that available to you. So if you want to use those for your footsteps, you can. even cooler is if you go to decide to record your own. The clock's ticking right now for to get this project done, but we're gonna be doing more stuff down the line. So actually, going in and doing a Foley session is good. You don't have to go to the core and do it. You can do it at home as well. And I think it's worthwhile. You'll quickly realize how much harder it really is to do this right. It's surprisingly difficult to do a good Foley session. I mentioned it in the video, but like when I do my Foley sessions, in the past, when I my other studios, when I've done Foley sessions, I usually do those from like 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. because there's like no cars and no helicopters and no trains. Because I mean, even just because the gain is cranked, even just the slightest amount of anything in the background will bleed through. In fact, you'll hear my breathing. I should have been holding my breath. I was trying to move quickly doing this thing, but what you should do is hold your breath when you do your takes. And because you can really hear even that shotgun from like that far away, you can still hear your breath there. So you're gonna hear my breath through some of that stuff. So, but when you cut it up, you can't really tell. You can't. It's kind of masked in there. Yeah. So the only other thing that I would say, we're gonna continue on. We're gonna do one more. We're gonna do another round of this, editing this with and looking at Reaper next class. Like the export. So I did the whole export function inside of Nuendo here, using that cool export function. You can also do something similar to this in Reaper. Reaper can do some really, really sophisticated exporting of complex sounds and complex sound sets with automatic naming. It can do some really cool stuff. So we're going to go over that next class. And also, there's one other kind of catch that with Cube when you're doing this, when you're implementing the sound effects for feet in particular. Cool. All right. Well, it's 10:46. I'll stick around if anybody has any questions here. But actually, don't leave yet. Don't leave quite yet. Like I gotta get to gotta do whatever attendance. So I had to do a screenshot there. Cool. All right. If I'll stick around if anybody has questions, but yeah, I'll just see you guys on Wednesday. Rock and roll.
Hey Marco, I have a question.
What's up?
So